Chapter 2, Part 2. Turns out it's a good thing Keith asked for a movie night earlier in the week, because by the time Friday rolls around, their dorm has been commandeered for a group study date. Keith shouldn't put it that way. Group study dates are pretty standard for the weeks leading up to midterms. But he liked the way Friday nights belonged to him and Shiro. A half hour before people are supposed to start showing up, he finally slinks into the main area. He's not sulking. He's not, even if the jut of his lower lip feels uncomfortably close to a pout. Shiro's already shuffling through their pile of takeout menus by the kitchenette. "Hunk's going to judge our poor food choices," Keith says. In fairness, Hunk is going to judge everyone for everything, just in a loving way. Still, there's a petty victory in this. Shiro glances over his shoulder at Keith and pauses, eyes sweeping over the bared length of Keith's legs, before he goes, "You're wearing that to study in?" It feels like there's a right answer and a wrong answer to that question. Keith's just not sure which is which. Reaching down to fidget with the too short hem of his pajama shorts, he says, "Yes?" Okay, he didn't mean it like a question, but it came out that way, and now he's got to stand by it. "I don't want to wear jeans, and I don't have anything else." This is absolutely true. His only pair of sweats is currently crumpled on the floor in his room after a rough bout at the gym. No sign if Keith chose the correct answer. Of course not. Why would it ever be that easy? "Nothing?" Shiro asks. He turns, propping his hip against the counter and reaching out to hook a finger in the waistband of Keith's shorts. No?" Keith's intensely aware of the heat pricking at the back of his neck and the urge to lick his lips. "Should I change?" Shiro tugs him closer. "You don't have to," he says. Another finger slips beneath the waistband. His knuckles rub at Keith's hip bone in a way that short-circuits any and all thought. "But if you want to, I do have some recently clean laundry you could borrow from, including sweats. You'll like the black pair. They're warm." Something about his slow, insistent touch, combined with the sureness in his voice, makes Keith want to melt. "Why don't you try them on?" Stumbling out of Shiro's grasp, Keith says, "Yeah, I'll go do that. Now." Despite his less than graceful exit, Shiro just gives him an easy and entirely platonic grin when he comes out a few minutes later in the pair of black sweats. They are warm, and Keith does like them. Half an hour later, he's wedged into the couch and grateful that Shiro had him change, because he could not have this conversation if he was in shorts. Absolutely, categorically, definitively could not. The loss of dignity would obliterate him. Even in sweats, it's the kind of conversation that has him sinking back into the couch with his shoulders hunched up around his ears. "It's not what you think," he says. Croaks, really. Probably that's the most cliché thing he could say in this moment, but he doesn't care. It's not mine." "You do not need to be ashamed, Keith," Allura says. It's quite possible she's never looked more like a Disney princess than she does in this exact moment. All glossy white curls and sincerity and glittering blue eyes. Keith kind of hates her for it. What he hates more is that right now she's the only person on his side. Hunk left 15 minutes ago to pick up the takeout. Small mercies, he took Shiro with him, because while Shiro would have put a stop to all of this, he also would have been witness to all of this, and that can't happen. Ever. Pidge has been gifting him with intensely judgmental and long-suffering glances over her glasses ever since she found the teddy bear while trying to get a highlighter that rolled under the couch. And Lance... Lance won't stop cackling. I cannot believe that Keith has a stuffed animal. His spindly thumbs dig into the bear's plush belly, like he wants to eviscerate it alongside whatever might have been left of Keith's self-respect. Dude, my 8-year-old niece has outgrown stuffed animals. It's your teddy bear. Dead silence falls for all of 6 seconds. Then Lance's cheeks puff with displeasure. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Keith will die on this hill if he has to. Jabbing a finger toward Lance, he adds with a triumphant snarl, It's the one you got for Naima. Wait, Hunk gave you the Naima bear? New horror enters Lance's expression as he looks back down at the teddy bear. Maybe he's finally sensing its inherent malevolence. There's a kind of kinship in the way that Lance's throat bobs with a too hard swallow, and the quietly strangled whimper he lets out as he stares into the bear's beady eyes. Keith doesn't want to feel kinship. Not with Lance. Not right now. Even if Lance does give Keith a genuinely tragic expression and says, "Oh man, I am so sorry." Pidge groans and takes off her glasses, rubbing out one eye with the heel of her palm. I should have left the bear where I found it. Most likely, Allura says, but here we are. Turning to Lance, she holds out her hand in a silent, hand it over. Either because he's obedient when it comes to Allura, or because he doesn't want to keep holding a clearly cursed item, Lance hands it over without another word. Briefly, she turns the bear over in her hands, examines the source of all the chaos. When she looks at Keith, her lips are pressed into a thoughtful line and her eyebrows are pinched together. It is not a reassuring expression. So, you wish to be Shiro's baby? She asks. Vertigo hooks Keith behind the navel and at the base of his spine. The rush of blood in his ears nearly masks the sound of Lance choking on his own saliva and Pidge squawking like her namesake. What? You? Lance, she says. Tapping one perfectly manicured finger against the bear's nose, she adds, though the bear is also a bit of a giveaway. Apparently, she's still going for sincere, and warm, and compassionate, because she leans forward and places a hand on his knee. As I said, you do not need to be ashamed. The pursuit of love is never something to fear or regret. Keith's not proud of this, but his first thought is to remind Allura of Lotor. What about your ex-boyfriend? He could ask. The one who stole all your research, and then also seduced your dad in the ancient Egyptian artifacts special collections. Biting his tongue, he makes a non-committal grunting sort of noise instead of lashing out at one of his few friends in the world. Because, no matter what people think, he does have some impulse control. If you would like, I could offer my own advice, she says. No, Keith would not like. You must simply use band-aids. The beatific smile on her face, paired with the way she pats his knee, suggests that she feels this is a good suggestion. A brilliant suggestion, even. It is not. What? Bless Pidge for verbalizing what Keith hasn't figured out how to. How is that supposed to help? The hand on Keith's knee pauses in its semi-maternal patting. Allura's eyebrows draw together once again, this time with significantly less concern and significantly more irritation. Lance beats her to whatever put-down she was about to dole out with a quick, "You're the one who suggested cartoons." Pidge fears no man or goddess. Defiance sets her jaw and the corners of her eyes into mutinous angles. At least I got them to cuddling. That's not... Excuse me, Allura says. Polite as the words are, her tone is tart with warning.
I had not finished.
When no one else immediately tries to jump in, she inhales deeply before turning back to Keith. Maybe she doesn't realize it, but her nails dig in slightly at his leg. He's not sure if she's doing it out of generalized frustration or as a deliberate move to keep him still.
This kink is about Shiro caring for you, correct? Well, if you allow him to tend to some minor wounds, like the ones you have now, then he will be filled with the protective urges that will allow you to, seduce him.
It's quiet enough to hear a pen drop. That's not a metaphor. Pidge actually drops a pen, and the sound of it hitting the carpet, muffled though it is, can be heard throughout the room. Keith knows as much because Lance twitches, just a bit, in perfect sync with Keith himself. After that, the silence just keeps stretching. On, and on, and on. That's a terrible idea, Pidge says. Lance's words almost overlap hers, only a half second behind. That's not a bad idea. As the two of them turn on each other again, Keith looks down at his bandaged thumb. Shiro hadn't said anything when he'd realized over dinner that Keith had chewed the cuticle bloody, just frowned a little. But he had been the one to hand Keith a band-aid before he went to the lab the next morning. Allura isn't wrong. But Keith's fairly sure she's not right, either. If minor injuries and band-aids were the way to Shiro's heart, this all would have been over a long time ago, and with considerably less suffering. Using the most neutral tone he can muster, "It's an idea." Clearly, Allura was hoping for something a little more enthusiastic. Tough shit. It's not like he actually asked for her opinion or her advice. Keith doesn't like seeing her sad, though. None of them like seeing her sad. Which might be why he grits his teeth and adds, "I'm planning on giving up. Anyway." "On Shiro?" Lance asks, breaking off halfway through some volley of insults with Pidge. He yelps as she throws her pen at him with unerring accuracy. "Keith will never give up on Shiro," Pidge says. "Don't be stupid, Lance." "On the Daddy Kink plan," Keith says. He doesn't want the fighting to escalate any further. It's already taking every fiber of his being to resist vaulting over Allura and running for the nearest exit. More arguing would make that impossible. If he does run, then Shiro will give him that look, the one that's equal parts understanding and disappointed. Twin squawks of outrage come from Pidge and Lance, but Allura's the one who manages actual words. "But why? It sounds as if the plan has been working, even if it is a touch unorthodox. What a charming summation of the last month and a half he spent in quiet agony. Look, it's not a big deal. There's nothing to follow the just," Keith realizes as he trails off in an abortive grunt. Nothing he can say that will make the three of them stop looking at him like he's personally offended them. "Would you give me the bear? I need to get rid of it before Shiro and Hunk get back." Allura reaches up to pinch at the bridge of her nose. With her other hand, she shoves the bear in Keith's general direction. Taking it with a quiet, "Thank you," he gets off the couch and heads for the front door. If he's quick, there's a decent chance he can dump it in the communal kitchen or something. Let it curse someone else's relationship. No one says anything. Allura's still too busy with pinching her nose and looking professionally tragic. The other two have settled for merely looking betrayed. But as he reaches for the lock on the door, he hears voices. Specifically, "We should have gotten your keys out in the car, man." Hunk sounds vaguely winded. Shiro probably made them walk up the 3 flights of stairs. He's like that. Keys jingle. How many keys do you have?" Ever since Iverson gave Shiro keys to the various engineering labs, it's taken him a good 30 seconds to get to his dorm key. No judgment, but I'm just saying you could have separate key rings.
Panic lends Keith speed. It does not lend him intelligence.
Opening the freezer door, Shiro never uses the freezer, doesn't believe in frozen food. He jokes, but not really, that he's got some ice-related trauma. Keith shoves the teddy bear into the very back. Behind the broken ice machine. Behind the ice cream that's made of freezer burn at this point. Behind the 4 bags of peas they keep around for bruised knuckles. Where it will never be seen again. Like exile to Siberia. The lock clicks. Keith slams the freezer door and spins, pressing his back full length against the fridge. The doorknob turns. Keith glares over at his friends in a silent warning to keep their mouths shut. The door opens. We're back.
I'll come back.
Keith's trying desperately for casual. But his voice cracks over the syllables, and his palms are damp with sweat, and his entire existence is a fuck you to the very concept of casual. Pizza boxes cover Hunk's torso and face. Still, he manages to convey sympathy with a friendly elbow nudge to Keith's side as he shuffles deeper into the dorm room. "Get it while it's hot," he announces cheerfully. Grease and cheese scents the air as he puts the boxes down on the coffee table and pops the topmost lid. It's enough to distract everyone who isn't Keith from the spectacle that is Keith. Everyone except Shiro, of course, because the universe is cold and unfeeling. Are you okay? Reluctantly, Keith looks up. Whatever's on his face must be answer enough, because Shiro steps in front of him and his bulk blocks off the sight of their friends scarfing down pizza. "Is this too much for you?" he asks, quiet. "Keith, is the study group too much right now?" Yes. No. Maybe. A vein ticks at Shiro's jaw as he clenches it, then releases. "You seemed down earlier. I should have canceled." "It's fine," Keith says. He doesn't want Shiro to blame himself, because this all would have been fine if Keith hadn't started all of this in the first place by being desperate. Shiro doesn't look convinced. But the thing is, he's not going to kick their friends out without due cause, and Keith's not going to give him due cause. They're in a good old-fashioned standoff for about 30 seconds before Keith's stomach growls and puts an end to it. Rolling his eyes, Shiro curls his fingers loosely around Keith's forearm and tugs him over to the couch. It doesn't occur to Keith, still high on the victory of winning the standoff, that he probably should resist. Not until Shiro collapses into the corner of the couch that Keith had previously claimed and tugs Keith down next to him. Hunk hands Shiro a pizza box with pineapple scrawled on it in Sharpie. "Pineapple?" Keith asks. It's not a real question, more of a placeholder. He's too busy trying to figure out how exactly he's supposed to pull out of the gravitational pull of Shiro's weight and warmth. "Yeah," Shiro says. One shoulder lifts in a shrug as he lets the box rest on his lap. He pops the lid and says, like it's not totally devastating, "I got it for you." Because Keith loves pineapple on meat lovers, not Hawaiian, and not another soul on this earth shares his tastes. And this is totally devastating. It is. "We can share, right?" Keith nods mutely and stops trying to pull away. They do share, eating through the entire large pizza over the next 15 minutes with the single-minded purpose of 2 hungry and athletic college boys. Food helps settle Keith. So does Shiro's body next to his, a solid foundation that he leans into on the excuse of not wanting to drip cheese everywhere. Normalcy settles over the group and banishes all of the earlier stupidity in favor of more familiar stupidity. When Shiro gets up to put the box away, Allura leans towards Keith in a parallel of earlier. The others are distracted, but she still pitches her voice for only his ears. "You see? Shiro takes very good care of you."